Nice Shorts theme song.
Nice shorts. Yeah.
This is a special program for
Yeah.
PFCAT, and we are interviewing Yuli to have a tiny preview before the screening at the film festival. And the film is called A Man Who Takes Pictures of Flowers.
Yeah, so I'd like to say thank you for having me. It's such an honor. Love you guys. I know Fu for a couple of years, and I feel like we're fast friends.
The connection between you and the photographer Kim Jong-un, if I pronounce
Yeah,
it
you are Kim Jong-byung. Yeah, very good.
yes. How, thank you. How do you start to know him and how do you approach him?
So
Yeah.
that's a very good question. It's a very simple question. So I graduated from high school in Korea. So and I'm a little older, so this is before internet. That's a giveaway. So the only way you can keep in touch with people really, and this is a lost art, and I lament that my daughter doesn't have this privilege that I had, is that we write to each other. So I don't have a lot of childhood friend, and except for this one friend I have, she kept giving me present every year of a flower, like a calendar. And it's because it was her dad. So Chung Myung Kim made money making his pictures into a yearly calendar, like a journal, and selling it at the end of the year.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
Did it just
So
happen to
so
be your friend's dad?
yes. I remember getting this beautiful calendar every year. I have it somewhere, but oh, I have it here.
it's like a magic. You pull
Yeah,
it
you just
out from
pull it out
nowhere.
of the flower field.
Yeah. So
Oh, wow.
it
Okay.
helps to be organized. So and so I had this thing. So I knew in the back of my mind he was a wildflower photographer. Never met him. And then she knew I went back to school. And then, I'm a dreamer. So I talk a lot. I plan for 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. I have a lot of plans. So I always talk about, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. So before I graduated I told Shine, I think I want to make a documentary. And I think I want to make a documentary about your dad because he's a wildflower photographer, right? And I thought it's a very much synchronicity of what I'm doing with my life. We're not doing it for money. We love what we do. I think I want to interview him. And she just thought, there she goes again talking. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. So when I graduated, I told her, I really want to do this, but I couldn't do it until I met him, right? So
Right.
I had to meet him and make sure, because, here's another thing about stop motion. I always joke, and I think I say this to everybody, but I'm not joking. Every project you do, I think minimum trims up 3 months of your life expectancy. It is so taxing to your body. So I wanted to make sure if I was going to make, you know, a documentary or another stop motion, especially after I graduated, I wanted to be worthwhile. And it was going to be a project just for me. And it was going to be a project that is going to sort of set the tone of kind of a storyteller I want to become, right?
Mhm.
So I had to meet him, and she said, sure. So she organized a meeting between me and him. She lives in San Francisco. He lives in Korea. And yeah, she gave me a call that he had cancer. And then there was more urgency, and I met him, and he's so charismatic. And you could just feel the love he has for his flowers. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't know how to frame it, but I do want to do it. And he gave me the rights. He's never done that for anyone, but I think he knew his life was coming to an end.
Mm.
And I asked him one question. I asked him, what do you want your life to be? What is important to you? And his answer was really important because it's the same thing I have. He said, I want to be remembered for my work long after I'm gone.
Mm.
And that's my goal as well, and I told him, I think we want the same thing. So let me help you. And by helping you, I'm being selfish. I'm helping myself. So
Mhm.
that's how this project came about.
It was gorgeous film.
Yeah.
Like we watched it just gaping the whole time, not even realizing it. It's just like, and I mean, his voice, everything about it was perfect.
Oh, thank you so much. And I've always had an intention this was not going to be a cancer movie. This was going to be celebrating his passion. And this is what he wanted as well. So I didn't want to betray him. And when before I went to interview him in Korea, I bought this all new recording gear because I was going to get the recording right. But I'm not that great with
Mhm.
technology. So although I like practice when I was home, when I went to Korea recording, I actually like fumbled and lost half the recording. And it's like one of my biggest regret. But at the same time, and all that recording of him interview at the end that was
Yeah.
done with a camera, and luckily I had some voice that worked, but half of them I had to throw out. And because of the cancer, in all the treatment and everything, he also started to get dementia, early onset. So it was really hard to interview him. I couldn't interview him more than a minute after I came back. So we really had very little dialogue to go on. So it became almost like poetry because you're forced to work with what you have.
Mm.
And so you look at what you have and you just polish it.
And we were talking about the design of the puppet, and I would love you to share more of the look.
So I actually graduated from USC in 2023. I went back to school to learn animation.
Mhm.
And I don't believe people have to go to school to learn, but I do believe the fastest way to learn is either work at a big studio or you go to school and you learn all the fundamentals. And I really wanted to learn the fundamentals. So I went back to USC.
Mhm.
And when I graduated, I asked a lot of large questions. And so one of the questions I had is, why am I doing this? What is life about?
Mhm.
And stop motion is, it's a lot of passion. And I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't have any regret when I'm on my deathbed because I'm really morbid. I always think about my deathbed. So,
Oh.
and so I wanted to talk to somebody who knew more about life than I did, who lived a life of passion. So that's why I seeked out a wildflower photographer because I thought it's such a niche little thing, just like stop motion. And he's obviously not doing it for money. He's doing it because he loves what he does. And he's been doing it for 45 years. So I went to meet him in Korea, and he gave me 6 terabytes of his photography and videos.
Oh
And
my.
yeah, it's like eating a sweet cake one after another for 12 hours. You just can't stand it. And I did it for 7 months, trying to archive it, try to figure out how to organize it. And I was dying. So this is like, what am I going to do? So what I started doing it just to survive this tediousness, I started watercoloring every day. One of his pictures, like one of the flowers, I watercolored every day for a couple of months, and something clicked, from transitioning from looking at the flower digitally and sitting down at my desk and getting my hands dirty watercoloring, and I really something came out. I'm like, there's something here. And I transformed that onto the puppet because prior to that I didn't use etching on making a puppet face. It was just really just coloring and whatnot. And just when you do watercolor, you pencil outline everything in pencil, and then you watercolor it, and all that line comes out on the drawing. And I love that effect. So that's how I came about getting that face made for the puppet.
Okay.
So I say to everybody, like, nothing you do, whether it's stop motion or anything that you do, is ever wasted. I think it's all somehow leads you to what you're supposed to do. So the face of the puppet is, I use baked clay. And then I mold the face and I bake it. And then I glue the Chinese watercolor paper, the traditional paper, mulberry paper, which I
Yeah.
love. And then I watercolor it, and then I etch it, and then I coat it with like semi-gloss.
But you have him at his oldest age
Mhm.
with the smoothest skin, and you have him at his
Mhm.
youngest age with the sketchiest, most unfinished look.
Yeah, yeah, and that was also purposeful because it's also going back flashback, right? We go from his 80s to 40s, and I jump back to when he's 15, and that's like, and that's something I always wanted to do in stop motion flashback, which is like stupid hard, but I always wanted to do it. And in
Mhm.
59, when you look at the photos, because he's a photographer, it's a lot is like very rough, right? And accented, so it's not refined. So I wanted to and I wanted to recreate that,
That's cool.
and yeah. And also the one of the reasons why I etched it also, not just the watercolor point, you use a technique that works to, everything works towards the story you're trying to tell.
Yeah. How big were your sets?
My sets are huge. That's
Okay.
that's the ironic part of it all is because I work just like Fu out of my garage. It's a two-car garage. I just like building a large set, especially for cinematic shot, because you can really move the camera, and I use Moco, so you're really able to get that look, you know?
Mhm.
So I always build the set a little bit bigger than I need to, just to give it a little edge on the both sides.
That is awesome.
Yes, but you could also imagine that how long it must have took to make the field of flowers. So that was not fun.
I want to honor like for your sacrifice and your fingers. Do you want to mention more about that fabrication
Yeah,
on the
I
field?
I have such an ugly hand now. Like I don't grow nail. Like I never liked the feeling of nail polish anyway. I have callus on every finger because just making it for months on end. But it is also very meditative making those. But it is painful at times, because you're working with the wire and metal.
Mm.
But there's something very peaceful about fabricating because it just slows you down and it's repetitive. So it is meditative. And I'm a
Mm.
very high energy person. So it's very rare that I calm down. Fun note, the set that you see behind me, the
Mhm.
yellow flower set, I still have it. My cat thinks it's a real flower bed. So he takes nap on it every day. So I find that really funny.
The
Oh
world's
no.
biggest cat bed.
Yeah. One of the good thing about having the set made is when you're looking at it every day, so before your even DP comes, you kind of have an idea of how you want the world to look. And this is my favorite thing to do, and I think everybody should do it. Is I replace all the animatic with the actual shot from the set. You position the puppet, it's very rough. It doesn't have
Okay.
to be fine. So you take a picture on the set and you place it so you know it's and you kind of work out what lens you're going to use. You kind of work out the camera movement because I love camera movement as well. And you work out what you need. And sometimes that's how you find out the set doesn't work and you might have to revise even. So I think the process of testing, is
Yeah.
important as well.
So when you're
Right.
blocking the shots, does that mean
Mhm.
you've had your lighting done already and you
No,
like no? So you're
no, that's
just your
before
garage
lighting.
lights.
Yeah,
Okay. And
yeah.
then
More about framing and camera.
It's more about the framing. It's
Yeah.
okay.
more about camera movement and like you do the beginning shot and the end shot of where you want to end, and you put that in animatic so you can see the whole film and you know if it works or not.
Right. Oh,
Yeah. So the animatic from the 2D animation to the actual film at the end, it's like my Bible. And when we do the shot list for the filming, I actually don't do the 2D drawing shot list. I replace it with the actual test frame that we've done. So we know exactly what we're doing.
how about like the media? You have
Yeah.
a lot of interesting approach in that.
Sure. So the thing is, I had a very limited dialogue. I
Mm-hmm.
have a very limited resource where I don't have a fancy crew to go take a beautiful documentary picture. I couldn't do that financially or manpower. So I'm like, how do I do this? His pictures are stunning, and audience will see that. But the thing is, they are not high resolution. They're HD because he's been doing this for 45 years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and we are so spoiled watching beautiful, high quality documentary, National Geography, and things like that, that I was thinking, how do I make this watchable for people? Because you can't just show beautiful pictures and that be a documentary.
Yeah.
That just doesn't work. So how do I frame it? Well, I can make it watchable by incorporating stop motion to narrate it. I could have gone really surreal with the animation and I could have done something very imaginative, a lot more imaginative than what you will see. But I also didn't want to take away from
Mm.
his pictures. So really every animation exists to transition from his pictures and his stories and
Mm.
to accent his work, not to take away, not to take a center stage. It's sort of a supporting actor for
Yeah.
the leading actor. So that was the goal, and I think that's how it came about. I think passion is universal, and
Mm.
passion is like something we all could relate to if you're passionate about something. And it could be large, it could be small, it doesn't matter. But I think life of passion is what I learned is worth living, and no, there's no regret.
Yeah.
right? As long as your passion is not harming other people or taking away from other people,
Uh,
that's not your problem. So you could be passionate about killing people, I guess, if you're serious. So
Passion, but no sociopath. Yeah,
exactly. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's worth living. And Chung Myung Kim, we when we finished the film, he was really sick, so we rushed to finish the film. And his daughter, who I made, she became a producer. So I made Shine producer. It was really important she be one of the producers in this film because I also wanted to make sure I wasn't doing anything to diminish or dishonor his work. So she was a
Mm,
fact checker. And so if
okay.
she was okay with everything, I was okay with doing what she was okay with. So that was really important to me as well. So she rushed to Korea with unfinished, like it was finished, but we didn't do any post. So they rented a small theater in Korea and he got to see it with packed theater with all his friends and loved ones and all the people who admired his work for 45 years. There was not a one dry eye. They all got to celebrate his life and his work before he passed away, which I think that was worthwhile in making this. That was the purpose of this film, I think, you know?
That's incredible.
before the end, and he
Yeah.
got to see
Yeah,
what all those years.
exactly.
If it-
And yeah, and some people, including his daughters and his wife couldn't speak. She was so emotional, but like people who admired him, some of them got to speak on stage and talk about him and he even got to and he was really sick, but he was okay that day. So he came on a wheelchair and he even said something. So it was it was really great, and it taught me a lot. It taught me that if you live your life well, you'll have a room full of people whose life is better because you existed, and you get to. I think it was a really good death at the end. I know he was in pain, but beside the pain, I think he got to live the way he wanted to live.
Before we play the trailer, is there anything you want to tell the audience?
Just enjoy it. But I love the music. Joelle, she's from Switzerland. She composed the music, and I met her waiting in the line at the movie, and she says she composed it. I'm like, I'm working on this movie, and I didn't expect her to email me back something. So she heard what I was saying, and she actually hummed the song that
Oh,
she had in her head. It's
huh.
not the song we use, but when I heard her voice, I was like, oh, there's no doubt. And I needed her approval from Coco, so I sent that, and we were all like, she's it.
Mm,
So what I learned from that experience as well is if something inspire you, go extra mile. Because if she didn't send that, I wouldn't have worked with her because I already had a composer lined up. So I think it was a real like I've never had somebody do that for me before, and but that changed the course of the music. And I think this film was always meant for her to
mm,
compose. So I'm very grateful. I do have to have a big shout out to Proof of Concept Accelerator because
mm.
without their funding, I would have gone broke, and it would have I would have gone broke, and I was willing to liquidate my retirement fund to make this film. And no, and I was doing that already, but it was amazing. So I'm very grateful.
저는 임정명입니다.